Hello and welcome to £100 and Counting. My name's Sarah and I'm on a journey to lose £100 with Slimming World. In today's video I'm going to be making this stovetop cheesy meatball lasagna. I'm really excited to share it with you. I've seen several recipes doing the rounds where lasagna, instead of being cooked in the traditional way, layered and baked in the oven, it's being cooked directly into sauce on the stovetop. I've tried a couple of these recipes and I really like it. And then I came across a recipe which also included making meatballs and doing a tomato sauce, and I thought this would just be perfect for sharing with you. Credit where credit's due. Let me give a shout out to the Slimming Each channel. It was on their website that I found this particular recipe. If you're not already familiar with them, do check them out. As their name suggests, they do specialise in healthy, slimming friendly recipes, and there's a real abundance of them both on their website and on their YouTube channel. The version I'm sharing with you today has been slightly adapted by me in some ways, but is still heavily based on the recipe that they shared. So if you do find you like it, check them out for more ideas. The recipe is of course Slimming World friendly. You can make it for as little as 2.5 swips and 1.5 healthy extras, or you can just use 1 healthy extra and count 5 swips. I'll share the full macros for those of you who are interested towards the end. But for now, let's take a look at the ingredients we'll be using. We'll be making our own meatballs for the recipe, so we're going to start with 500 grams of 5% fat minced beef, a slice of stale bread, approximately 40 to 50 grams, which we will turn into breadcrumbs, 1 large egg, a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of onion powder and 2 teaspoons of dried parsley, and some salt and pepper. We'll then need 1 onion, 1 medium carrot and 1 stick of celery, all finely chopped to create a sofrito that will form the basis of the sauce. 6 cloves of garlic, which will be crushed, a tin of chopped tomatoes, a carton of passata and 1 tablespoon of tomato puree, a tablespoon of Italian mixed herbs, 2 teaspoons of granulated sweetener, half a litre of stock, 200 grams of lasagna sheets, which will be roughly broken up into pieces, 100 grams of a light cream cheese, 100 ml of semi-skimmed milk, 20 grams of parmesan, which will be finely grated, a pinch of nutmeg, which is optional, 80 grams of grated mozzarella, 60 grams of grated cheddar, and a spray oil. You'll find a full list of these ingredients along with a step-by-step method in the description of the video. So the first thing to do is just make some breadcrumbs. I have 1 slice of pretty stale bread. It is the end of the loaf, and I'm going to just drop that straight into the food processor and give that a whiz. Alright, that took about a minute, but that is a nice and fine breadcrumbs there now ready for us. If you don't have any stale bread to make breadcrumbs from, you can just lightly toast and cool just a regular fresh slice and make it from that. If you don't have a food processor or even a blender with a metal blade that could make breadcrumbs for you, you can use shop-bought breadcrumbs, but you're going to be more than likely going to need to count more swips for that. So this recipe includes 4.5 swips for the slice I used. The particular brand I used was the Kingsmill 50/50 loaf. So that's about 50 grams of breadcrumbs there. About 50 grams of breadcrumbs shop-bought, you're looking at something like 8 to 9 swips for that. Now we'll make the breadcrumbs. So we're going to put all of the breadcrumb ingredients just into a large bowl. So that's the minced beef, 5% fat minced beef for this so that it's free on the Slimming World plan. The breadcrumbs that we just made can go straight in. The seasonings that have been designated for the ingredients being garlic and onion powder and parsley, they can all go in there. We're going to break 1 egg in, that's 1 large egg, and we'll season with plenty of salt and pepper. And I'll just quickly wash my hands because we're going hands in. And straight in with our hands we go. I'm just going to mix all of this in together. Make sure that the breadcrumbs get mixed right the way through the mince. Just use my knuckles and my fingers for this. Very messy, but it's the most effective way to do it. You can try using a wooden spoon, but you'll struggle to get the really even mix and distribution of everything if you don't really get stuck in there. But that looks good for this. So we're now going to move on to making the meatballs themselves. Another hand wash first. So I'm not quite sure why I bothered washing my hands at that second stage, because I'm literally about to go hands on again. But yeah, we're now going to just roll up the meatballs by hand. The mixture here is going to weigh approximately 600 grams. We had 500 grams of mince plus 50 grams of the breadcrumbs and an egg. It'll be a little over 600, but I want to make 24 meatballs if I can, that way, because this makes 4 portions in total. There'll then be 6 meatballs per portion. So it doesn't need to be an exact science, but we want them reasonably the same size. So 624 ways is approximately 25 grams. So I've got my scales just so I can measure one meatball, kind of just get the weight together for that and gauge how much meat that is. And then I know just kind of be able to eyeball the rest of them. So I've taken one section out there. I think that might be a bit much. Yeah, that's 33. So if I take a little less, 26, that'll do. So it gives you an idea of how much meat to take in each ball, and you can then get the number that you want. So I'm just going to run through this mixture and make up, as I say, 24. And that's 24 meatballs made. This is just 1 swip per portion for these meatballs, as the only swipped ingredient is that bread slice that went in there at 4.5 swips, which has been split 4 ways. And if you were to buy shop bought meatballs, you'll find you might get some that are about half a swip each, but for a portion of 6, you're still talking 3 swips. So you're saving on the swips here by making your own for sure, even if it is a bit messy. We're going to move on to the next stage, which is cooking the meatballs. So we are now ready to move to the first stage of cooking itself, which is to brown off the meatballs. So I have a frying pan here on a medium to high heat, and I'm going to add in some spray oil. I am using, as I always do, my Filippo Berro mild and light in colour cooking oil spray. It's an olive oil spray. It is half a split per 7 sprays. This will be nice and hot, and so we're going straight in with these meatballs. We're looking to brown them. They don't necessarily need to have cooked all the way through at this stage, as they are going to cook in the tomato and stock sauce that we'll be making next. And they'll be in there for about 15 minutes. That'll be plenty of time for them to cook. But what we do want is to just get them nice and brown. That's going to create a seal around the side that's going to help them hold their shape and hold together whilst they are cooking in the sauce later on. So when these are just browned off to your liking, I've got a real nice char on these. I know they're going to be super tasty. I'm just going to turn this off and get them set to the side before moving on to the next stage. So we're now ready to move on to making the tomato-based sauce and cooking the lasagna. The lasagna sheets themselves, as I say, about 200 grams for the recipe. That made out about a little over 200 grams from 10 sheets for me. So I've just been breaking them up. So all I'm doing with them is kind of splitting them in half and then each one in half again. Sometimes they break off a little bit extra piece and or whatever, that's like it just did right there. And that's fine. So it's not an exact science. It is just into pieces. It's actually be better to have kind of different size pieces in here. That one's got a mind of its own. So there we go. So they're all broken up and ready for us to use a little bit later. I am just getting this pan back to a medium heat this time, and I'm going to add some more spray oil. And we are now ready to cook off the sofrito mix that we're using. So that's the carrot, onion and celery. I've just got all that prepared all together because it's all going in the same time. So that's straight in the pot with that. We're going to give this about 5 minutes here in the pan. And we're just going to keep it moving, make sure it doesn't stick or burn. It might need a little bit of extra spray oil, so I'll be watching for that. But we'll see. Yeah, 5 minutes just for this to soften down. And the sofrito is getting nice and soft now, so we're ready for the garlic to go in. So as I say, always my favourite part when I put the garlic in, and the smell that you get. It's a wonderful, wonderful aromatic. You know what I'm actually enjoying though, actually, as I'm making this sofrito, is the smell of the celery. I would never eat celery. I wouldn't just eat a celery stick. It's just it's not my cup of tea. But I really miss celery when I don't cook with it in something like this. Like if you just make it with you know, onion on its own, or even just onion and carrot, you still really miss the celery. And I really do like the smell of it when it's cooking. Not as much as garlic though. There we go. So we're only giving this a minute. We don't want that garlic to burn. And then we'll get on with the next steps for the sauce. Keeping it moving whilst it is in there again, just to help making sure it doesn't catch. There's nothing worse than bitter garlic ruining your dish. All right. Okay, so that's good enough for this. So we're now ready to go in with the wet ingredients, which is going to be the stock that I've just made up. Now I'm using a beef stock made with a bouillon powder, Dr. Coy's bouillon powder, which is the range that I commonly use for stocks. You can use any stock, beef stock, chicken stock, vegetable stock, and from, you know, either one you've made yourself, a bouillon powder like me, stock cubes, stock pots, all of these will be perfectly fine. So I've got the stock in, and I'm just scraping the bottom of the pan to pick up any of the remnants of the beef there that was kind of charring on there, so that will flavour this stock even more. And we're going to add the rest of the wet ingredients, which is a tin of tomatoes, just regular chopped tomatoes there, and a tub of passata. So quite a lot of liquid here, but we're going to want it to cook the lasagna sheets in, to make sure there's plenty of liquid to cover them. And it is going to reduce down quite a bit as it cooks out. So mixing that through. We do have some, I haven't finished with my ingredients yet. So we have a tablespoon of tomato puree to go in. Just going to measure that out there. There we are. And we have the herbs, which is just a tablespoon of mixed Italian herbs. The herbs de Provence style herbs. And we're also going to put in, actually just let me check, is it 1 or 2 teaspoons? Always check your ingredients list if you're not sure. Don't guess. 2 teaspoons of the granulated sweetener. So I'm using a stevia here. It is 1 for 1 for sugar. And there's no Swips when you're just using this volume. So 1 teaspoon. This is just going to help. There's so many tomatoes in here. As tomatoes cook, they can get a little bitter. That's why you'll see recipes that do add sugar or a sweetener on occasion when cooking with tomatoes. But that is all of the ingredients just here for now. I'm just going to get this mixed into a simmer. This will just need a minute to come to a simmer, and then we're going to add back in the meatballs and we're going to put in the lasagna pieces. All right, so the sauce has just got to that simmer now. So we're going to pop those meatballs back in first of all, and any juices that they have released. So you needn't worry that they weren't cooked through before, which they definitely weren't, because they're going to get a good sort of 12 to 15 minutes in this sauce right now to finish. So they're all in there. So I've just got those in first, and then we're going to go in with the lasagna. So I'm just going to be getting this submerged under. I'm doing it by hand simply because I don't want to rough up the meatballs too much, and I also want to make sure they get submerged under this liquid layer. I also don't want them to overlap too much because they might stick together a bit. I mean, we might well get some of that anyway, but we can try and avoid it. So just finding spaces for these. So you'll see right here just at the start as I've put them in, we do have some sections that are sticking up out of the sauce. Actually, it was more of a bit of a practical issue getting them all immediately submerged than I had realised just in this particular size pan. So I realised that's not going to be a problem there, because the first few minutes of cooking, those bottom sections of the submerged pasta are going to soften and allow us to kind of push the top sections under the liquid layer as well. What we can also do in these first few minutes of cooking is even pop the lid back on the pan, which is going to trap the heat and allow that pasta to really make sure it's getting cooked right off the bat. So I've given it a minute with the lid on, and just going to see if that that pasta now does want to go under the liquid layer, so that's good. So just we'll keep an eye on that and make sure that stays under. I am going to put the lid back on for another minute or two, just giving the pasta, as I say, that head start on making sure it gets cooked through whilst there's still plenty of liquid in the pan. Then that lid can come back off, and we can start to see that sauce thicken up and evaporate somewhat. So this has had about 5 minutes over here right now. I have taken the lid off just a moment ago, and it won't need to go back on again. I can tell the pasta's softening up nicely, and this is probably going to need anything from kind of 7 to 10 minutes more, but I'll be keeping an eye on that. I am going to move it over to the stovetop behind me just to sit and simmer there whilst I make the cheese sauce, which is the last thing we need to make. And we're ready to make the cheese sauce, which is going to be made with the cream cheese, which I'm going to go straight into the pan with. This pan is just on a medium heat. May even turn this to medium low, as we're just looking to melt this through. I'm going to let that cheese soften up in the bottom of the pan. And then we're going to slowly just add in the milk and mix that in. So what you saw there was the milk just being added gradually, mixing in with the light cream cheese as it has been heating through. And we do just want that to be nice and warm, because we're also going to now melt the Parmesan cheese through it, to make that a real nice cheesy sauce. So do not be tempted to use anything other than light cream cheese. I mean, you could use full fat if you really wanted, that would be fine. But if you go lighter than light, you're going to risk this just splitting. It's not really going to come together very well, is what I'm told. So yeah, you want the light. I'm just using light Philadelphia. The same goes for the skimmed milk actually, if that's what you use. You really are better off with, at the very least, semi-skimmed on this. So just before we take this off the heat, because it is just, I can tell it's nice and warm through, we can probably see the steam coming up. I'm just going to add a tiny dash of nutmeg to this, just for the flavour that brings. It is reminiscent of a traditional bechamel sauce, which of course you would get if you were making a traditional lasagna. And that can just mix through. But yeah, this is hot. We definitely don't want to be boiling this. So now that can come off the heat. And once it's off the heat, we can melt in the 20 grams of finely grated Parmesan cheese that we have prepared. So I'm just going to sprinkle that in. And let that just stir in gently. And this should just melt with the heat from the milk and the cheese there. So you don't need to worry about keeping this warm. We're really just going to be using it in a few minutes now. I've just set the grill to preheat because once we kind of just put all this together, along with the grated cheese that we still have to use, that's going to top the dish. We'll slide all that under the grill to finish off. So yeah, we just need that pasta to finish, which I'm going to go and check on now, and we're nearly there. So the pasta is now perfectly cooked. You did just see me take a piece out to check for that. And yeah, brilliant, perfectly cooked. And the tomato sauce has reduced somewhat. Still plenty of sauce there to go at. So this is looking fantastic. I'm now going to take that cheese sauce that we made and literally we're going to pour this over. Just kind of let it drizzle around the top of the pan. There we are. I'm going to just move some of the pasta pieces around so that can just kind of seep through. But mostly that's going to sit around the top. So that's on. And then we're going to take those grated cheeses that we've got. So for the Slimming World measurements, I've specifically looked at ensuring there's just one healthy extra for these cheeses across the portions. So we effectively, because there's 4 portions in the bowl, we have a double healthy extra portion of grated mozzarella, which is 80 grams from a bag that's grated. You can actually get away with having a bit extra if you choose to have the one that you grate yourself, just buy the balls and grate it yourself. Plus if you get the reduced fat option, you get even more of it, of course. So you can actually play around with that and get some more cheese on here if you want to. And then we've got cheddar, 60 grams of cheddar there, as 30 grams is one healthy portion. So yeah, we can go through and scatter this across. It's going to be very, very cheesy. In fact, there is literally 4 cheeses in this dish, between the cream cheese, the Parmesan that's in that cheese sauce there, and then these 2 cheeses that we're adding on top as well. So a real treat. If you like cheese, which I do, luckily. I think that's probably quite obvious. But yeah, it's always like to get the healthy extra cheeses in. So that's all top. And this, honestly, this looks amazing. I'm just going to let you get a close-up view of this before it goes into the grill. And then, of course, we'll see it when it comes out. And it's ready, and honestly I am dying to tuck in. This looks fantastic. I mean, as long as you're a cheese fan, you must agree. The macros for the portions, if you split this into 4, are on screen for you, so you'll be able to check those out if you're interested. So I talked about the Swip count for these at the beginning, and there's a couple of flexible options that you can use. If you just count Swips for the soft cheese that went into the sauce and kind of combine the bread, so long as you use a healthy extra option bread, that is, alongside the bit of milk and parmesan that you used, kind of put them together. It's going to come out, once that's all been split into 4 portions, around a half a healthy extra portion equivalent. So adding that to the cheese portion, which is a full healthy extra, that would be your 1.5 healthy extras and 2 Swips for the soft cheese. You would also need to count any oil that you use. So I used the spray oil, but I only used 2 portions, and that was across, so that's like 1 Swip across 4 portions is like 1/4 of a Swip. I may not even bother counting that again this time. If you don't want to use more than 1 healthy extra, or if you're not using a healthy extra version bread to make the breadcrumbs with, then you can count this as 5 Swips and just 1 healthy extra. So I'm going to serve up 2 portions for me and my partner for dinner this evening. I'm going to put a green side salad with it, with a light dressing on it, and a slice of the Marks and Spencer's ciabatta garlic bread, which I recently found and I'm kind of addicted to. But at 6 Swips, I have enough left in my allowance today to have that as well. So yeah, I'll show you that on the plate in just a moment. But as it is for me, that's me done for the video. So I hope you enjoyed it. I genuinely can't wait to tuck in. If you are inspired to try it, please do remember to come back and leave a comment so we know how you got on. If you do have any questions or suggestions about the recipe, same again, just go to the comments and I will find them there. I'll be back on YouTube at the weekend with my next weight loss diary, where we'll find out how I get on at Slimming World this week, and we'll also dive back into that new segment I created, What's on My Plate, where we look back at the meals I've been having during the week, give you a bit more food inspiration there as well for yourself. You can expect a new Slimming World friendly recipe at the same time next week. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss that. But thank you very much for watching today, and I'll see you again. Goodbye.